After 2.5 years of waiting for Spider-Man Lotus to come out, it has finally arrived. So let's take a look at this and see what we have to work with.
2 hours later.
Well, the Amazing Spider-Man looks a lot better now. Listen.
I can explain.
I understand it's just a fan film. I get that. I understand the limitations of a fan film. And for what it's worth, I think they put all their heart, love, and soul into this movie. And it does show. A lot of this stuff looks really professional and really well done. So before I actually get to the negatives of this film, let's talk about the positives. Because I feel like what this movie does right, it does so extremely well. Let's just take an easy one real quick. The visual effects for this movie were pretty spectacular, all things considered. The CG shots of Spider-Man swinging were really amazing, especially for just a small budget that they were on. That stuff looked really great, and I wholeheartedly mean this, it rivaled some of the swinging scenes with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So props to the CGI team, because you guys did an excellent job and knocked it out of the ballpark with this one. As for the cinematography, this was some really good stuff. For a fan film, there were some really great shots of the cityscape, and even just some really good close-up shots and a lot of different use of angles, and I could really admire it for that. It was a very appealing movie to look at, and it felt, well, very professional. When it came to the fight scenes, however, in terms of cinematography, it was a little bit more of a dip in quality, but it's not that bad. And again, for a fan film, they absolutely destroyed this element of the movie. And I feel like the soundtrack was surprisingly well done. I think Spider-Man's theme overall was kind of like a unique twist and had almost elements of the original Spider-Man theme. And so it kind of felt a little bit more organic that way. And I feel like the music choices that were used felt very appropriate for the scenes. So props to that. Again, what this movie does, it does write very well. And that's where the list ends. Time for the negatives. Okay, I probably should clear something up first. I believe that there are second chances out there. And as you may know, there was a lot of controversy surrounding this project as a whole, with the cast and crew saying some pretty terrible things. And well, it kind of tarnished the reputation of this movie as a whole. And no, I do not agree with anything that they have said, or anything that they have done, or have been accused of. But to the best of my ability, I'm trying to separate the art from the artist, because otherwise, I'm just not going to be a very happy camper. This movie was always fighting an uphill battle against its audience because of what happened prior to the film's release. And look, I don't want to get into anything because I'd just be beating a dead horse. There are plenty of other YouTubers and other videos who have covered this whole drama and all this topic, so just go watch one of those if you want to know what happened and all that, and come back here when you're done, because I will be purely reviewing this movie for what it is, a fan film. Now, I totally understand if you don't like this movie because of the stuff surrounding it. It can very much flurry the mind, and you might just not have a pleasant experience even watching this. And well, that's totally valid. Okay, let's get back to the movie. Whoa, yikes. The acting was pretty bare bones. Like, listen, I get it's just a fan film. They're not gonna get A-list actors up in this stuff. But, man, Peter is always making it out to be like this is the friend group of a century. Like, no other friend group can replace them. But goddammit, they feel like they were just forced into a room together. Like, the director was like, okay, you four, I picked you off the street. Play Heads Up 7-Up or something so you guys look like friends. Like, these interactions with them as a group are just kind of awkward. They really don't sell their lifelong friendship. And what gets worse is that I feel like Gwen Stacy and Peter's relationship doesn't even feel like it's really there. I understand Gwen is kind of upset at Peter for just always kind of dodging things and just, never really being there for the whole group and all that. I understand that. But man, it sounded like she just couldn't even stand this guy. In fact, when I was first watching this, I thought they weren't even together yet and that they just liked each other. But then it's revealed that Peter was going to propose to her? What? Then they're supposed to be having this sweet moment where Peter's gonna walk her home. And again, this chemistry just isn't there for me. They feel like two really awkward and good friends rather than a couple that's been together for a long time now. At least long enough for a propose to be warranted and in the picture. And when they are supposed to be having this sweet moment where they're talking to each other about whatever, Peter has a monologue that overlays on top of the audio of their interaction. And it ruins the whole scene. Peter is telling us of how great of a person Gwen Stacy is and how they just click. And that's great. But maybe let the audience see that instead of you having to verbally tell us. Like saying, wow, Gwen Stacy, she's the best. She's amazing. She's like a sunflower. What? You want to see that? Well, too late. She's already dead. There's a principle. that I feel like this movie could really benefit from. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's kind of underground, but it's called Show Don't Tell. It's legitimately frustrating to kind of watch. And this movie's whole story is supposed to be post Gwen Stacy's death, after the Goblin killed her and after all that jazz happened, right? And it feels like almost in a way kind of what the direction of The Amazing Spider-Man 3 would follow. But goddamn, this movie relies a lot on using flashbacks to benefit its story. And I don't mind flashbacks. They're a great way to expand the story and really benefit the characters later on, but I feel like they were used at a disservice in this case. And I'll have you know that there was not necessarily a villain for this movie, and I'm okay with that. Peter fighting an internal force is kind of a lot of a cooler concept than him just fighting the Green Goblin for the 60th. But honestly, and this just might be my opinion, this could have been a really great place to input the symbiote into the whole picture.
Never wound what you can't kill.
Like, we see Peter kind of getting upset at his friends after the whole Gwen Stacy death. That sounds like that could have been a great introduction for Venom. But hey, maybe that's just me because I love the character of Venom so much. There's also a plot that goes on where Peter finds out that there's this kid who has a terminal illness and his only wish is to see Spider-Man. So he has to bring himself to complete that wish. And we've seen this exact story go down before. And I was kind of hyped for it because I was like, this could be the thing that saves the movie for me. It was not. God damn, nobody told me that this was going to be 1/3 of the whole movie. What was great about this scene initially was that it was this short but very sweet scene that really inspired Spider-Man to continue doing what he does. And although they were trying to go for that, did they really need like half an hour in this exact same kid's bedroom? Not to mention, but let me tell you a thing about world building. Whatever this is, that's not world building. This is just, hold on, let me look up a big word in the dictionary. Ah, there we go. This is a travesty! You don't know what I mean? Okay, let me paint you a picture. How come this kid has action figures? How come this kid has video games and TV shows of Spider-Man? Like, think of that for a minute. And although this has been done before with other movies, this just comes off so on the nose that it makes it kind of weird. Also, I'm not sure what time period this is supposed to be in, but I'm gonna assume that this is present day. If they did make Spider-Man merch, which I still think is kind of bizarre, why does a TV show have a 90s quality look to it? And why does the video game look like it's being played on a Game Boy Advanced? No. If this is present day, this is what the Spider-Man video game should look like. Not this. Okay, I get that it's like kind of a small nitpick and doesn't really change the story, but I don't know, I just find it kind of weird. It felt very much like they were just trying to shoehorn as many Spider-Man references as they could. Also, the idea of him just playing video games while the kid's talking to him is just kind of funny to me. Spider-Man, I'm really glad you're here. Shut up, kid, I'm trying to fight the Rhino. Also, oh my god. It rubs me the wrong way that Spider-Man starts like venting about all the awful things he's done to this kid who just looks up to him. Like, listen, I get that the kid is there to uplift Spider-Man and to remind him why he does what he does. But did they really have to include all this? His whole backstory, Uncle Ben's death, and just how he kind of ruins everybody's life? The kid doesn't want to know that. He just wants to see Spider-Man. And then he's like, hey kid, I can't do this anymore. And he just walks out in Spider-Man, which I think is absolutely insane. I get he's in the middle of something and he's going through it, but man, I'm gonna be real. If Spider-Man did that to me, I would not look up to him the same way I did. This is a perfect example of why you never want to meet your heroes, guys. Like, this kid is dying and you're just gonna walk out of him after you like vented your whole life story to him? Like, why was he telling all this to a kid? I understand giving the bare bones, like how he's like, being Spider-Man is not what you think. But did he really have to go so in depth, and then we really have to get his origin story? This movie is like trying to run through all the original Spider-Man plot beats, but without any of the good stuff that made it work. Oh, and there's also this scene where MJ bumps into Flash, and they have like a heart-to-heart. Except it's kind of awkward because Flash is the only one saying anything, and it's like a one-sided conversation. It's like, I know MJ's listening, but it's just kind of weird to sit through. And overall, the pacing for this movie isn't really great. It's kind of dragged out, and there's scenes that go on for way too long. Like I already mentioned, the scene where Spider-Man visits this terminally ill kid, I feel like this could have been shortened down and reduced a lot. Like, a lot. We didn't need to have it go on for this long. Again, I like the more grounded story that they were trying to go for, but I feel like the way it was executed was just not very great. Also, one thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about the characters and the acting is I feel like individually or even like one-on-one, the characters work better speaking to like somebody else. But as a whole group, you know, Harry, MJ, Gwen, and Peter, they just don't really mesh well. They don't really feel like as much of a friend group. But when Harry has his scenes alone or with MJ, they're a lot better than just with the whole group of people. It's strange because the characters work better when they're either one-on-one or by themselves. But yeah, then we get the final swing and that's it. Spider-Man is back in business and the whole movie finishes. Well, that was a fan film that exists. Now, again, I see the passion and there's some clear creative drive here, even if there was some hiccups in the road. Like really bad hiccups. I can always commend an effort at a film, and I think they tried their best here. And there's some really great stuff about this movie. Again, it's not all bad. Unfortunately, the negatives outweigh the positives, and it makes this film kind of hard to sit through. As far as fan films go, this is definitely much higher in terms of overall quality when it comes to some of the things. But with its actual narrative and story, it doesn't really work very well. And like I said, this movie already brought a sword to a gunfight. This was already at a losing advantage because of all the previous drama involving all the racist stuff that were said and all the allegations, and, all that stuff, that whole can of worms. But even as just a fan film, it doesn't hold its ground very well. Oh no, I'd give Spider-Man Lotus a 4 out of 10. It was just not very great. I like the ideas that they had, but ultimately, like I said, it just falls flat on its face. There are just too many X factors holding this movie back from being anything spectacular. It's a shame too, because it did have potential, but God knows how this thing is getting review bombed right now in Letterboxd. I kind of feel bad for the filmmakers. I feel like they wanted to have a turnaround, but I don't think this is what they expected. And again, for a fan film, I think what they managed to pull off was, pretty impressive. It just overall doesn't really work with me. But let me know what you thought of the movie overall in the comments. Tell me what you liked about it, tell me what you didn't like. Or tell me if you even saw it, or you just didn't want to give it a chance because of all that stuff that happened, which, fair enough. Typically, I'm not one to cover fan films because, I don't know, they don't necessarily pique my interest to the point of wanting to talk about it on this channel, but because I'm such a big Spider-Man fan, I wanted to say my 2 cents about all this. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, well, like the video, and subscribe and stay tuned because the next projects I'm going to talk about are probably some of my favorites out there. But with that all said, I'll catch you all later.